Yeah, Baruch Levi, B here from Soul Centered. Soul Centered is a spiritual center for meaning, purpose, and healing in the afternoon of life. And that's what I do. I guide people through midlife and onwards, the afternoon of life, along with my wife Ariella. That's why we established Soul Centered. And we created it because we wanted a place spiritual in orientation, open ended, not a particular type of spirituality, just a place to connect to spirit, to soul, that's always at the center of our lives. It's who we are. And it just becomes covered over with layers and layers of stuff in the morning of life. And one of the reasons why I love working with people in the afternoon of life, 40 onwards, not a hard number, but kind of an idea. Not my idea. It's Dr. Carl Jung says that 40 is really kind of defining new chapter and new reality where we need new rules and tools because we can't live in the afternoon like we did in the morning, or else it turns out to be a lie and can cause great destruction if we try and live in the afternoon of life as we did in the morning of life. One of the reasons why I just love working with people in the afternoon of life is because the afternoon of life, we're honest, right? At least we have the opportunity to be honest. So much less, let's just be honest, bullshit in the afternoon of life, because we don't feel that same compulsion to keep up what REM called the happy, shiny people syndrome. I hate that song. I love REM. What the hell were you thinking with that song? Unless maybe that was the point. They made this ridiculous song, Happy, Shiny People, to make fun of the Facebook culture and really the morning of life culture, to make it pretty and polished and shiny and present a version of ourselves to the world, but not the authentic version, certainly not the complete version. When you read about people's lives on Facebooks, it's garbage. I know, because I counsel these people. I am one of these people. The outside world, at least my previous incarnation, didn't match my inside world. It looks shiny and happy and polished, but on the inside, it's struggling and broken, even shattered. And so, what I love about the afternoon of life is people are so much more willing to be honest that we are shattered. And we're shattered from time to time in our lives because that's what the universe, that's what the world, life brings to us. And it's an important thing to be honest about it. When somebody dies, there's a shattering. When we go through a divorce, there's a shattering. When we're struggling with midlife crisis, identity crisis, or financial crisis, or health scares, or you name it, there's no shortage of shatterings. But we can only ever deal with it when we're honest about it and confront it, face it. And stop doing the morning of life void dance, avoid dance, a dance around the void. And we dance around it and around it and around it, but we never face it. We never go into it. And that's what the afternoon of life has plenty of, are the shatterings. But what happens is if you can shift the shatterings from an imperfection to a perfection, from a brokenness to a wholeness, then you have the opportunity of a lifetime to grow and to transform and to transcend into what I believe is your authentic self. The problem is again, we look at these shatterings and these moments as imperfections. One of my favorite teachings, I've shared it 1,000 times, I'll share it 1,000 more, comes from a great mystic called Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Kotsk. Kotsk was a place. And he said, there is nothing more whole than a shattered heart. And the work I do with people is to first and foremost, just be honest about that. That it isn't that your shatterings are ugly or imperfections. I would say they're what makes us unique and beautiful. I call them warrior marks, right? To be a warrior means you live your life showing up, and there are battles along the way. And they leave marks on our body, physical marks. They certainly leave marks or wounds on our emotional being and our spirit. The point isn't to cover over those warrior marks. The point is to see them as signs that we have lived and we have loved and we have lost, we have been shattered, but here we are again. And we've picked ourselves up over again and again and again. That's the definition of greatness. And he or she who is great has been in the battle, has been in the arena, like that famous quote goes, and maybe has been bloodied and marred and bruised and battered, but she has gotten up again and again and again. And she doesn't have to cover over those shatterings, those lines, those wrinkles, those bruises, those blemishes. She wears them loud and proud and says, this is who I am, and these are hard won, they're hard earned, and I want to talk about them. And I want to understand them, and I want to move through it, and I want to become more whole because of the brokenness, because of the shatterings. It's time to get rid of the shiny, happy people Facebook syndrome and start being honest. If not on Facebook, you don't have to share your dirty laundry and your brokenness there. I think it can be done in the right way, the right amount, the right time. But finding a person, finding a guide like me, like Ariella, finding somebody that you trust, that you can go into the shatterings and discover that that is the pathway into your wholeness, right? Leonard Cohen, that the cracks are where the light gets in. We need a society that can start dealing with some of this far more honestly. I also think that's a blessing of COVID. People are more real than they were 6 months ago. They're clearer than they were 6 months ago. They're ready to do this work in ways that I think that they couldn't have been or wouldn't have been 6 months ago. So this is going to be the first in a series of what it means to live a wholehearted life. And it begins by saying that the imperfections, the failures, the blemishes, the shatterings don't make us less perfect. In fact, our imperfection is what makes us perfect. There is nothing more whole than a shattered heart. Until then, I am Baruch Halevi B, and this is Soul Centered. Shalom, salam, namaste, peace.